Going live like Channel 5.
And we are almost live everywhere. All right. We're live everywhere.
Nice. I see it. We on.
Welcome back.
What's up, y'all? We are back. I'm so excited for this episode.
Man,
So,
is this even an episode?
I mean, we could call it that. We call it
Man,
a live show.
yeah. But
I
now,
love it.
welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. It's good to see y'all.
Absolutely. So, Tuesday, we're back with another episode or live talk show of Real Talk, Real Growth. Super excited to have this conversation today. We did two parts last week of how misconnect equals disconnect.
Hmm.
And now we're going to move into a new conversation today, which I believe is going to be the topic of fighting fair,
Yeah.
right? Am I correct on that, guys?
Yeah.
So
Yes.
I'm Miles the Millennial, just here to introduce myself. You guys know me.
It's your boy Rex Howard Jr.
And I'm Coach Lauren J., your favorite relationship coach.
Yeah.
So, guys, I'm not going to belabor the moment for too long. I don't know if anybody has any big announcements or anything they want to talk to the audience about before we get started. But after that, we're going to jump right into these questions.
Absolutely. So, two things, guys. Thing number one, God is good all the time. Not a time. God is good. Thing number two, stay on the lookout. Try Therapy, Not Me, full hoodie sets for the joggers will be going on pre-sale within the next couple of days. So stay tuned. They'll get them in black and olive green and maroon and pink. Um,
Yeah, every
and
color.
yeah, super excited about these. So that's what I got for y'all.
Coach, you got anything?
Don't forget to share our live. Listen, we have been getting I don't think I've told you guys this, but I had someone on Facebook inbox me. It was a guy, and he was like, man, he caught the replay. So y'all gotta let us know if y'all catching us live right now or on the
Yeah.
replay. There's one, drop it in the comments. But he said to me, Lauren, like y'all's conversation was so good. Like, where else can I join? Like, how else can I stay
Mm.
connected? Super excited. Him and his lady, I think, both watched the live last week and just got really great feedback. So, listen, if you have not shared our live, please share the live. Let us bless somebody else, not just yourself, okay? Because it has definitely been blessing people. So I'm excited. And I also sent him you guys this men's morning mastery. Because of course, I'm always talking to men. So I was like,
Absolutely.
here and sign up there as well. Um, so it was a great time. So I see folks coming in. We got some people from Facebook here. Miss Dorothy's here. Joseph Martin is here from YouTube. Abel Simpson, hope I'm saying it right. Um, he said, Abel said, I learned so much from y'all. Look at the top. I put the comments at the
That's
top.
love.
Much from y'all from YouTube. So thank y'all so much. So yeah, so I'm excited about tonight's conversation. So y'all share the live, and that's all I got for now.
Actually, I have one
Perfect.
thing to add. I know you guys are looking forward to more episodes coming from Let's Talk Like Men podcast. Guys, like we said, we're taking the month of October. We have a little bit of I can't remember what they call it, but we're just going to call it a hiatus for right now. Our studio was in between moving locations. So right now we don't have our normal place to record, but we're going to be back in November and we're super excited to finish out the remainder of the year with some powerful episodes and giving you guys some powerful content. So just keep on holding on while you got this time. This is your chance to go into our catalog of episodes and go learn everything that you can, share it, remember some things if you've forgotten them, and just continue to feel that growth and spirit that we have on that show because we're not going anywhere.
Yeah. Perfect, perfect. So we're gonna hop right into the topic. So tonight, the guys, we're gonna be talking about fighting fair. So all things conversation, all things dealing with conflict, the understanding that conflict ain't really a bad thing, right?
Mm,
It's all about how you navigate through it. So I'm gonna we have 10 total questions, but just like last week's episode, we may have to split them up depending on how much we flow. We'll jump right into it. But before we do that, make sure you like, subscribe, make sure you share with a friend, and man, buckle up because we better get straight to it.
Happy birthday,
All right,
Joseph.
so yeah. Question number one: How does fear of conflict impact your ability to communicate openly and honestly with your partner?
You want to go first, Coach?
Rex, why every time you be coming for my business? Next time, you and Jesus mind y'all business together, okay? I feel
Yeah.
attacked on this Let's Talk Like Men podcast.
Hey, look,
Real talk conversation laugh. Um, it makes you wall up.
Mm.
And I think interesting enough, I was literally, as you see me looking down, I'm texting my best friend and was like, watch the live tonight. Because we
Yeah.
literally were having this conversation earlier today about how a lot of times we have PTSD from past relationships. And
Yeah.
so even the person we want to love, we struggle with letting them love us.
Mm.
And they end up, unfortunately, loving us like Christ loved the church, evidently, like leave the 99 for the one. Like they just try to love us and they fight so hard to. And there comes a moment when like you gotta be able to take the risk
Yeah.
and risk like be able to risk what it would be like, risk for the positivity or for the positive outcome of allowing someone to love you past your fear.
Mm. That's
yeah,
good.
On that.
I love that, Coach. I think that one of the main things that happens if you're afraid of the conflict or if you just avoid the conflict, um, you get to a point to where you're never going to feel heard and truly accepted for who you really are, because the fact that you were so avoidant of the conflict, like you already said, Rex, sometimes conflict is necessary in any aspect of growth. It doesn't matter what you think about in life. There has to be some level of contention there in order for breakthroughs to happen and growth to then be stimulated.
Yeah.
Um, if you avoid it, then you remain the same. And if you remain the same, then you actually decrease,
Yeah.
right? So, believe it's the law of decay that we talked about with Myron Golden. If you don't put in action on something, things tend to move further and further towards decay unless they are acted upon. So unless you're cultivating your relationship with tough conversations, unless you are going into the dynamic with your partner being open and vulnerable about things that may get really uncomfortable and cause an argument, then your relationship doesn't grow. And if it's not growing, you guys aren't growing, or even if people are growing, but the relationship isn't growing, then you're going to get to a certain point to where it's like, yeah, we're here as individuals, but relationship wise, we're way down here. And that is a place that can cause a lot of contention and problems that can end the relationship.
Absolutely. And just to add to that, man, so the question says, how does fear of conflict impact your ability to communicate openly and honestly with your partner? And I think it impacts it on multiple levels. One, you begin to withhold your truth, right?
Mhm.
So when you withhold your truth, you give automatic lies, right? Your automatic lies are I'm good or I'm straight or there's nothing going on or it's cool, don't worry about it. So and that leads to deprivation. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? And so you deprive yourself of the things that you really need. You deprive yourself of saying the things that you really want to say. You deprive yourself of having a conversation that needs to be had to facilitate everything else. Because what happens is if you keep sweeping things under the rug, your partner moves on as if nothing else is a problem.
Mhm.
Right. So let's just say we get into something and I withhold my truth and I'm not honest about something. But later that night we're supposed to be watching a movie and drinking wine together. Right. So I'm going to be sitting in that, and then when it's time to watch a movie, I'm not close to her. I don't got my leg on her. I'm not trying to share a cover with her, and I'm sipping my wine slow, or I'm sipping it to get drunk so I get past this feeling. Right.
Mhm.
So it puts you in a position to have automatic lies. It puts you in a position to deprive yourself from what you really want and what you really need and the conversation that really needs to be had. It holds you guys back from flourishing as a couple, because the hard conversations, the tough conversations are the things that need to be said. Because if not, when things blow up and conflict comes about, oh, it get ugly.
Real quick. Real quick.
Oh, Abel said, how can you be humble in relationships instead of defensive in the face of hard to swallow truths?
Mm.
I'm gonna answer that real quick. So just like anytime you go to Chick-fil-A, they ask you to do a survey, or if you go to a business and you're an entrepreneur, you have surveys for people to fill out feedback forms, right? The only way we grow in business is we take the feedback and we utilize it and apply it to our life, right? We look at the form and say, oh, they didn't like the way my approach was. Okay, I need to say my pleasure. They didn't like the way the buggies were outside, so we need to keep them inside. So you make the adjustments anytime that somebody fills out a survey. But the only time we don't like to make adjustments is when our partner is giving us the constructive criticism. So one way to stay humble in that moment is to listen with active ears, right? Listen with your heart, right? Don't listen to respond, but listen to understand. Ask for some clarity. Babe, what do you mean by that? Okay, can you give me an example of how I did that? Humility is when you are asking for clarity, and arrogance is when you're saying, that's not me. I never did that. I never said that. That's becoming defensive. So I think that's how I'll answer that. How would y'all answer that?
The one thing I add really quick is from a mindset perspective, because I think you just gave some really good tangible steps. From a mindset perspective, you got to remember pride comes before the fall every single time. And so if you keep doing something that, we learned is if you keep doing what you always done, then you always get what you always got.
Yeah.
So if it's not working, if things aren't going right in the relationship and you guys continuously having conflict, and the issue you're running into this issue of being humble rather than becoming so defensive, because it's a tough thing that's going on. Well, that hasn't gotten you what you wanted. You clearly understand, because you're asking the question, that humility is needed and that your pride gets in the way.
Yeah.
And I have to remind you, and you have to ask yourself, how bad do you want your relationship to not only last and succeed, but to be a place where you feel safe, to be a place where you feel cultivated, where you feel loved, where you feel like you have a true partner and not just somebody that you're living with, not just somebody that you put up with, right? That's the difference. And so if you really want this other outcome, is going to take a level of submission of your pride, your ego. It has to be thrown away. Okay. It has to be lowered so that you can put the other person, your relationship, God, in the rightful places so that they can get the correct respect and value that they need, so you can receive those conversations and that feedback, like Rex said. Because if the mindset isn't there, you can try all the things that Rex is talking about. Your pride is just going to jump right back up again. As soon as you ask for the feedback, you're going to hear all that. All right, cool, I listen to it. And then the next day, you're going to sit there and say, I still don't think that applied to me. You got to realize that your partner is your partner for a reason, and they know you better than anybody else. They ain't saying it for no reason. And if you got some traumas pent up to where you don't trust them, you need to address that. Because why are you with somebody that you think would lie or would manipulate you about yourself just to get their way?
Yeah. What you got, Coach?
It's accepting that a lot of times the reason we're so defensive is because it's true. And it's just something about, nothing heals a wound like exposure. It's nothing like that first time you take that Band-Aid off that cut and that air hit it. Your grandma say, take that Band-Aid off. You in there trying to get a new Band-Aid to cover that little scratch up, right? And it's something about the air hitting it. But I would also submit that in those moments, be able to own the fact that, and even if you're just not ready to deal with it, I can deal with that. I can deal with you saying, you know what? I'm not arguing that this isn't true, but right now I'm not ready to really receive it. I'm not in a space where I'm ready to deal with it. I can deal with that. Even with my children, sometimes when I ask them questions that I know that they have an answer to and they don't want to give it, I'll offer, you don't want to talk about it right now? And then they will tell me, and sometimes they'll say they don't. And then I respect it. Yeah. So as women, I'll be the devil's advocate on this. Don't push, just be present. Because sometimes people need time to uncover those things. A lot of times we have dealt with rejection, we've dealt with guilt, blame, or shame, and so this is our first time. It's kind of like a baby. This is our first time walking on these new legs, and just because I can stand on them, don't mean I can walk on them.
Yeah.
So be prepared for that, and let the fall be gentle.
That's good.
Let the fall be gentle. That's really good. And another thing to piggyback there when it comes to ladies is when you listen, don't automatically assume that you're the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Don't automatically assume that you're the problem. If he shares something that he's been wanting to share and you automatically go into defense mode, you rob him of the opportunity to continue to share. Because if he knows, as a man, if I know that my woman is going to be defensive, if she's going to play a victim or she's going to break down, I'd much rather avoid all that. And I won't even say what I had to say.
Mm-hmm.
Baby, no, it's cool. I'm good. So, and that right there is bad in itself. So if you are giving him the space to listen, truly give him the space. Give him the space to talk. Give him the space to be seen. Give him the space to be heard. And once again, ask for clarity, because that's one thing that's going to help y'all. Okay, perfect. So number 2, what specific fears hold people back from addressing difficult issues in their relationships, and how can they start overcoming them?
Feel like being unheard, right? Being a person that just feels like it goes back to childhood. If you felt like as a child, I would voice, the things that were going on in my life, and my parents never took them serious. My friends never took them serious. Everybody always said this or said that, and I never felt heard. You're going to internalize that. And then when you get into a relationship, because it's the person that you're closest with, you're either going to weaponize it or you're going to be defensive over it. So you're either going to become somebody that makes sure you're heard, you're going to become aggressive, you're going to become super assertive in situations where it may not be necessary. You're going to make sure that at any moment you're always trying to make your point be the only point that matters. Or you may be somebody that says, I'm just going to protect my opinion and not say anything at all. So I think that it's that fear of not feeling safe with your emotions. And oftentimes the person that you're in the relationship with, they're not the person that created the dynamic. You went into the relationship with this already. And then either something that they do to you triggers it. And now you start putting them in that category with everybody else, right? Or you're doing the same thing that my pops did, or you're doing the same thing that the girl back in the past did. And so now you start treating them in the ways that you learned to survive in those other scenarios. And in the end of the day, it's like, man, this person really has the best intentions for you. But now they're up against 10, 20, 30 years of trauma.
Yeah.
And they have no idea what's really going on and why you are responding the way you are. So, ultimately, I believe childhood trauma, and it's the fact that you feel like you're not safe.
That's good. What about you, Coach?
I definitely agree with everything Miles said. And I also would add to that it goes back to a lot of times us trying to pass the buck, like we just try to pass the buck on somebody else and make it that person's fault. And then what we'll do is we'll say, I'm gonna put them in a box. Like I literally was having this. So I'm like, oh, y'all my business today. And I'm the one who came up with that title. I'm like, why did I come up with this title? Because now I feel like this is why I'm being attacked today. So, but one of my girlfriends and I were talking today, and we were having a conversation about like past relationships, putting people in boxes. And I'm in the season of like daring to love again, right? So dating, i.e., I call it interviewing. So with that being said, that brings in this whole thing. So it's like every time you have to get a new person, it's like you got to go through this new set of things. And so sometimes what we'll try to do, especially if we really like a person, we'll try to control the narrative before it narrates. Like, oh, I'm gonna put him in a box, or he ain't called me this many times, or he didn't reach out to me, or he didn't say this to me. So I'm just gonna I'm gonna make it about me, right? Like when we make the problem about us, quite frankly, we're being selfish. And we're trying to put ourselves in a space of control because we feel like if we're the reason you are going away or you're avoiding, we can be the reason you come home. Listen, Tony Braxton.
Oh my God. That's good.
Listen, Tony Braxton. Love should have brought him home last night, okay? But that trauma, a part of him is trying to protect you from it and keep him from hurting.
Yeah.
And so sometimes we have to be willing to look at the other side of this thing and realize that, quite frankly, it ain't always about you.
Yeah, that's good. Two things that come to mind for me is one, if I was never given the space to express myself, even as a child, then maybe I don't even have the words to express myself. So when I try to express myself, nothing truly comes up, and I feel like I look stupid, right? So because I don't have the words, now you see the emotions. Now you're calling me a crybaby, right? So I think that's one thing, is the fear of that. And then the second thing is, if I trusted you enough to share something that was deep or touching to me, and then you threw it back in my face in a vulnerable moment, that's a huge fear for men, just for anybody in general. If I share with you that I'm struggling with this, if I share with you that I'm struggling with that, I'm sharing you that something happened with a friend, or I'm sharing with you a situation that happened with my father, with my mother, and in the midst of conflict in a later date, you get upset and you throw it back in my face. Well, at least that didn't happen to me, or at least so and so. Those situations right there will prevent anybody from ever opening up to you again, out of the fear that I can't even trust you with the deepest parts of me.
Yeah.
So I'm only going to give you the parts of me that I trust, and that's typically my penis.
Child.
Rex, dude, when you were in the middle of saying that and you talked about like that part of, I may not have the words to say it or things like that. Another thing that kind of popped up in my head is if you've ever been in a relationship, and especially from a man's perspective, well, this would apply to women too, but if that person left you, right, relationship doesn't last, and they tell you, I'm leaving you because you are inadequate in these areas, right? What ends up happening is if you're in another relationship and you're feeling inadequate, maybe this person hasn't called it out, or maybe they're noticing certain characteristics that the last person used to always complain about and said that's why they left. Now, as soon as those things start to pop up and you're feeling it yourself, or the other person is calling it out, you are so traumatized by the fact that the last time that I was inadequate, they left me.
Yeah.
And so now you in a place to where it's like, how can I be open about these inadequacies? Because then now I'm bringing it to light. They might not know just yet how bad things are. They still believe in me, right? And so what has happened is, and I think the root of that is, started to accept these quote unquote inadequacies as being who you really are. You've made them a part of your ideology. I just can't get right. Nothing ever works out for me. I'm a mess a good thing up. I'm always going to be this particular type of person. And so because you've accepted that as who you are, rather than it being a part of the season that you may have been back then, or a product just of your actions that you have the control to change, you then, one, self-sabotage, which is going to create the very thing that you are afraid of from happening. And then two, you're going to be at a place to where, since you're not being open about it, you prevent the opportunity for somebody to understand you, for somebody to be proactive with this person, and for them to be able to say, hey, look, I need you to understand, I'm not that other person. Okay. That's not what I care about. I love you for the fact that you try, not necessarily for the fact that when you try, it always works out. I don't need it to always be successful. I need you to have effort. And then they know how to start rewarding you and giving you the things that you needed to heal your own inner child and inner traumas. But since you were so scared of the fact that if I speak light to this thing, now it's true and I can't avoid it, and now it's here, and the last time it was here, they left. This happens with daddy, mommy issues. They walked out. They left me behind. I was playing in the basketball game and I missed the shot. Game winning shot, and Pops didn't even want to hug me afterwards. Mom didn't even want to claim me as her son in that moment. Now you afraid to shoot because you don't want to fail. The last time I failed, Mom left. The last time I left, Dad. This is a lot of this stuff is rooted in that too, in the fact that if I'm inadequate and I speak light to my inadequacies, I'm no longer going to be accepted and loved.
Yep. That's good. What you got to say about that, Coach?
Man, that's so good. And it's so true. And I'll speak for the ladies. Um, we have a fear of rejection as well, and a lot of us that grew up in these hyper independent households where you don't need no man, and every time somebody want to talk about something, they always want to talk about the one thing you didn't do right. No one really wants to compliment the things that you are doing right, or even acknowledge that it's present. We are some really hard people to love. And it's because we struggle with that. And it's not that we don't want to love you, and it's not that we don't want you to see our inadequacies. It's that we have PTSD. And a lot of times when people think of PTSD, they just think of you went to war. Or you was in the military. Well, baby, listen, you was at war. In your heart, in that house, you was at war. You had to go to Afghanistan. Y'all was dropping bombs in the house. Like you have PTSD. And it takes it's the scripture, and I think it's First John, and it says, don't quote me, but the scripture, and it talks about how perfect love casts out fear.
Yeah.
And I recall really like looking at the definition, because I love like the definition of words and what did that really mean. And when I looked it up, it meant James 1:4. Let patience have her perfect work, that ye may be entire, wanting nothing. So what am I saying to you, those that are saying, I want to love, or I want someone to love me, and I want to be loved, is to be okay with knowing that love, perfect love, casts out fear. Means what? It releases it. It has to flee. It has to leave you. And that the person that is sent to love you will not demonize you. And people cannot demonize you for something you have forgiven yourself for. You are free. And the person, if you want to know if a person is here for real and you don't want to waste your time, then just be who you need to be on day one. They was gonna leave regardless. Like, what's the difference? You leave now, 10 years later. What's the difference? You might leave today.
That's good. That's real good. I don't have nothing else to add to that. I have nothing else to add to that. So look, I'm gonna jump right into. Well, before we go to the next question, do we have any questions?
I hadn't seen any on our Instagram. I just see a lot of people joining. Hey y'all, hey Susie, beautiful queen. Look my brother on here. Hey Deshaun, my brother on here on Instagram.
We built up in Instagram. We got a lot of people watching.
Yeah,
let's get it.
Y'all share the live too.
Drop your questions, guys. Put them down here. We'll answer them. Anything.
Absolutely. All right, next question. How can couples reframe arguments as opportunities for growth and deeper connection rather than something to fear or avoid?
This is a good one. Me and my lady, and I told y'all this many times, naturally we are just two very opinionated, argumentative people. Like, we go back and forth, right? That's just been us. And we've had to change that over time, because it gets to a point to where that becomes so exhausting, right? And as you become more mature, you're like, bro, like, why am I arguing with the person I'm supposed to have peace with? Like that, this just don't make sense over trivial things. One of the things that I started to reframe with my lady was this. I need us to stop looking at each other when we're in situations of contention as being on opposing sides. We are not on the opposite side. We are on a team together. We may have a different opinion about how this particular situation should go, or what's wrong in this circumstance and what happened, but we are not fighting each other. We are against this problem together. Okay. So if the issue is, I didn't, text you and let you know how late I was staying out tonight, and you was up worried, sick about me, and this, that, and that, and I'm sitting here feeling like you being overbearing, and you sitting here, all these different ways. The issue is not me and it's not you. The issue is poor communication, right? So me and you are battling poor communication. We are not battling each other. Too many times we make it, and even Coach, I saw you make a post about this too. Too many times we at war with each other rather than being at war with the particular issue that is taking place. And people will sit here and say, "Oh, well, if you're the one that's doing the issue and bringing the issue about, then we are at war with each other." No, no, no. Don't personify problems and then make your person be this being that is so negative and so, in incapable, however the word goes, y'all know what I'm saying, but like you put this
Mhm.
person in place to where they're the enemy. How can you ever have peace with your enemy? How can you ever get to resolution with your enemy? They're your enemy. Now, I'll never be at resolution with bad communication, but I can be in resolution with my partner. Me and my partner can recognize, okay, this is the issue here. This is why it made you feel this way, why I did it. Okay, how can we work together to resolve this? We are on a team together, and whatever comes into our relationship that causes problems, that is the enemy, not the person. So I think that when you stop personifying the problem, it makes it a lot easier for you to address it and resolve it. So I think that's a key way for you to, really navigate those.
That's amazing. What about you, Coach? This your bread and butter.
I think it goes back to us wanting to be right about the person versus right with them.
Mm,
And for me, I'm at that this big age, maybe I'm not about to be arguing with folks. Okay. If you want to be an attorney, just tell me. Okay. Um, and we can make money from that. Okay. But we're not going to, I don't like to spend my time arguing. My goal um is to like get to the resolution quickly and
Mhm.
honestly, right? So it goes back to like taking the ego out of it, taking the what's in it for me aspect out of it, because a lot of times that's what we're covering up. We're just covering up what's in it for me because we don't want to come across selfish. We're like, Miles, you're being selfish today. No,
Mhm.
he not. He's just being who you are right now. Now, either we can get to that
Yeah.
and move on in peace, not pieces, or we it's gonna cost us too much. Like when we go round and round with our person, it's costing us too much. It's way too expensive. When we can honestly just come to the table with what we want and then hold space for that person to give their feedback, and then let's pick out what aligns with our values and move on. To me, it's almost like people fighting over, and this is not the topic for tonight and maybe later, but that stupid thing called 50-50, that's ghetto and stupid. Like, we're not fighting over who's 50-50 on the bills. That is called cash flow, budgeting, profit loss statements. It is simple accounting, okay? Accrual accounting. We're not going to argue over no stupid 50-50. That's ignorant at this point. We're too old for that, right? Because why would we find reasons to divide us when we're supposed to be finding reasons to connect us?
mm.
So I'm going to leave
Yeah,
y'all with
yeah, yeah. So I'm
I
gonna
love
be quick, short, and straight to the point. A reframe that you could use is this: conflict will be the fastest way to connect.
it.
Conflict is the fastest way to connect. And you ask me, well, like, what does that even mean? Well, in other words, if we are two different beings
that.
with two different behaviors, with two different backgrounds, two different cultures, different beliefs, all of these different experiences, um, different thought processes, there's no way that we're going to believe the same thing, think the same thing, behave the same way, want the same thing, desire the same thing. There's no way. So when we bump heads, now it's time for us to have the conversation so we can get to connection. Oh, you don't like the way I leave the toilet seat up because you want to sit down. And last time I left it up, you sat down and you almost hit the water. Connection. I get it now. Let me remind myself this. Oh, you hate it when it's time to pay the bill. I'm always looking at you like who gonna pay it, except for having a conversation beforehand and say, hey, this is what I'm gonna do tonight versus what you're gonna do. Okay, perfect. So now I'm already prepared. Oh, you don't like the fact that when my best friend female texts me or she called me on FaceTime and she don't ask about you first. Hey, you with your lady? Tell her I said hello. Okay, cool. Let me make sure I address that with them, right? it builds connection. Conflict is the fastest way to build connection when you do it the right way. But when you look at conflict as like, "Ah, here we go again. She
Mhm.
arguing again. She crying again. She got another complaint again." You rob her of the opportunity to express herself. You rob yourself of the opportunity to understand her. And except for going about the rest of the night peacefully, wonderfully, giving each other a kiss on the cheek, cuddling, things like that, now you sleeping on your side. She's sleeping on her side. You don't really want to touch each other. And y'all not even saying I love you. Right. So a
Yeah.
quick reframe is conflict is the fastest way to connection because it gives me the opportunity to understand you and it gives you the opportunity to understand me. And once we are able to come to a consensus, we're good to go. But if I realize that every single time we argue or have conflict, we can never come to a consensus, then maybe that's a clear indication that that connection is never meant to be.
Yeah. It's good.
I love your stance on that. I was thinking as you were talking, it's all about changing your perception around
Yeah,
conflict and the expectation. I think women, we don't like to argue, especially when we feel like it's not about to go anywhere and you ain't about to do nothing
right,
different.
right. That's the biggest thing. There's nothing different that's going to happen. So if we're arguing about the same thing over again, then we're missing something. Something is being missed. So, okay, cool. Anybody else want to add anything to that?
Um, the only thing I was gonna say, Rex, is this, man. Like, it goes back to something that Latoya Walker said when she was on
Mm,
the podcast, which was that long suffering thing. And I
yep.
believe it's so true because you got to know how to suffer well. It ain't
Forbearance.
gonna be something that just changes overnight. Conflict is gonna be a continuous process that's gonna have to happen as you grow. And too many of us, y'all already kind of hit on it. You get to that point, ah, here we go again. Yeah, here we go again. That's a part of what we signed up for with this. It's gonna be some here we go again. Do you have the endurance for it? Or
Yeah.
do you really want this relationship to succeed? And the key is for you to sit there and select somebody that when you're in this process of dating and in a relationship, you should be evaluating who this person is showing up as and are they actively trying to grow, right? So when we have these conversations, do I see them attempting to implement the things that we talk about?
Yep.
Too many of us just give up too easily because we expect, okay, we've had the conversation, that should be the end of it. No, you probably gonna have to remind them 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 more times about this
Yeah.
situation until it exactly until it finally becomes something that becomes what's the standard habit expectation that both people are aligned on. But that's not something that just happens because you have the conversation once. And if you don't have long suffering, you're gonna get to a point to where you're gonna say, look, tired of having this conversation with you. I'm done. I'm over it. I'm gonna just put up with whatever it is. And then you become somebody that's in a relationship with somebody who continuously does something that you know you can't stand, you can't put up with, but because you're tired of talking about it, now you're just a prisoner. You're just stuck. This person just do so many things that you can't deal with. And at that point, there is you build what Rex always likes to talk about, which is resentment. That wall gets so high to where you no longer see that person, you only see their problems.
100%. And I had to remind somebody tonight that in the process of doing this, being patient, right? That's a part of what love is. And I said, love is not a feeling, it's an action. And in the verse where it says, love is patient, love is kind, love is not envy, love is not boast, all of these things are actions. But
Yes.
one of the very first one is patient.
Mhm.
You're not going to get it overnight. It's nothing is going to happen overnight. In fact, they say you have to learn how to love your partner in every single season that they go in. The season when they're having kids, the season when they can't have kids, the season when they got a new job, the season when they get laid off, the season when they lose a family member, and the season when everything is going great, the season when their body changes, and the season when everything is on point. You have to learn how to love them in every single season. And if you don't, then that patience is out of the window, right? That long suffering is out of the window, and it's just part of the fruits of the spirit. So, man, I'm looking up here. It says, Living Adventure says, I saw my ex friend's husband throw a temper tantrum for not getting his way. Another time he talked down to her. Red flag. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's exactly a temper tantrum. A
You need to
grown
go
boy.
get therapy. Therapy.
Yeah.
Try therapy.
It's all about
Not your wife.
yeah, not literally. Literally. And when it comes to
Good
managing
discussion.
conflict, there's a couple different parts. There is being able to have the conversation, there's being able to self-soothe, and then there also is being able to accept your partner's influence. Right.
Yo,
So if your partner has input, your partner has something they want to say, is accepting and listening to it and taking it in consideration. The self-soothing comes into play when you do feel pissed off, you do feel triggered, you're able to calm yourself down, whether that means you need to walk away from the conversation and come back, whether that means you need to do a breathing technique, or there's one couple, I'm not sure if Miles and I talked about this, but it was a couple, they have a thing every single time they get into argument, they have to drop down in a push-up position and they have to whisper. And that's how they finished it. And it was like, there's no way that you can argue with each other when you have to sit down and you gotta talk like this. And it changes the dynamic. So it's learning how to argue well, learning how to suffer well, learning how to navigate these bad boys. Because if this is the person that you said I do to, then you and this bad boy for the long haul.
facts. Real quick, y'all. We had a question in Instagram, and Coach, I think this one really is going to be good for you to answer because I think you have personal experience with this.
Sure,
So
go
the
ahead.
question is, how do we navigate from placing expectations on people we are trying to date, especially as a single parent? Is it because I'm projecting my own emotions or trying to prevent the past from repeating?
So, great question. And I would say it goes back to agreement. So make the agreement. I went to lunch today with a girlfriend and she was absolutely laughing at me. She was like, Lauren, is everything thing an analytic to you? And I was like, pretty much. Because if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. So I was, because she asked me, like, how has dating been for you? Like, have you been dating? Like, what have you been doing? And I was like, well, I've been interviewing, but but I will say, like, in dating, and what I have found to be not just successful, even for myself, but even for my couples that I work with, is have a calendar. Your job tell you what time to come to work. You don't get mad at them. You know what time, right? Don't it work? When you work your schedule hours, don't you get your full 40-hour pay? There's an agreement. In the interview, they tell you what the job entails. They ask you questions to better understand you, figure out if you're going to be a right fit. And then from there, they make you an offer. In that offer, they've already addressed with you on the interview what times you have. So, like for me, I'm a single mom. So it's important that when I'm dating, that my person knows my schedule. To me, that is a part of intentionality. And so what I tend to do is share my calendar. Like I will create a legit calendar and we'll share calendars. So that way there's a lot of transparency there. So I'll say that definitely the more transparent you are, the better. And allow that person the grace to say yes to it versus you giving them unmet, unrealistic expectations with the agreement.
That's good.
That's good. That's real good. All right, bet. All right, let's tap into the next question. Oh, my question, Living Ventures. How to ask a guy what he is looking for? Simple.
How y'all want to sex out?
Right. Right.
I mean,
Go ahead, Moss.
I mean, there's a couple of approaches you could take to this. There's the very simple approach, and then there's the longer approach that certain people will say, and I don't disagree with either. One approach is just ask. Could just straight up just ask and say, what are you looking for in a woman? And I think actually, matter of fact, I'm just going to say this. Ask them, what are you looking for in a woman? And just shut up. Don't say anything extra. Don't sit there and try to tell them what type of woman you are and what you're looking for in a man and this is that. Because people will use your information that you tell them to then try and manipulate and become whatever they think you want. Just sit there and be quiet. Ask the question. What is it that you're looking for in a woman? Okay. And when this person is talking, what I also want you to do is to be thinking about their past as well. One of the best questions you can find out what they're looking for as well is to ask them about their past relationships. Me and Rex have talked about this too. Ask them about their past relationships. Why'd your last relationship end? You're going to learn a lot about that person within that question, between those two questions, because you're going to be in a space to where when you see them, they're going to tell you all these idealistic things. Oh, I want a woman that's this, a woman that's that. When you ask them why the last relationship ended, you're going to see 2-3 things. First thing you're going to see is how they really move past it, right? They're constantly projecting everything on that other person. Okay, you haven't moved past this. 2, you're going to see why they like those particular things that they say they like in a woman. Oftentimes, it's because it's the exact opposite of the thing that just caused them pain the last time around. You have to be careful with things like that. So ask them and be quiet. I think a lot of times what we do is we ask that question and then we want to interrupt. We want to make believe in our head that we're all these things that they're talking about. We don't want to be honest with ourselves. And so I genuinely think it's okay for you to ask. And you'll also, with a man, you'll be able to tell. Men show, right? You're going to see it in the way that he responds to certain actions that you do, right? When move a little too quick to grab that door. Don't grab that door. I got it. Okay, he likes a woman that he knows he can take care of, that allows him to lead. Cool. All right, cool. Yeah, right. But it's just one of those things. You can see it in the small things. It'll show in his character. But the key is not just to ask the question, but to see if the actions actually align. Because anybody can say anything and it all sounds good on that date.
That's actually really good. One thing I would say is it takes me back to, when I first met my lady, and Miles said it best. If you ask somebody that question, it's easy to become the thing that they're looking for, especially if you really want that person. So I remember asking my lady, so what are you looking for? And her response was this. She said, you know what? I'm not going to show you, or I'm not going to tell you.
Mhm.
I'm just going to continue having our conversations to see if you are him.
Mhm.
I want to see if your natural being is what I want. And if it's not, then we'll have a conversation about it and then we'll part ways. And I think that right there is also a great approach. It just depends on your intentionality. But at the end of the day, if I ask a young lady, what are you looking for? And she tells me, and if I'm a manipulator or if I'm a man that wears many masks and I'm a chameleon, then it's easy for me to fake the funk for 3 to 6 months to make you fall in love with me, to make you think we're going to the next level. And then I may leave you in the dust. It's so easy to actually do that. So spend time with that person, have conversations with that person. That's why I think it's so important to have the coffee dates, to have the walk in the park dates, to have the amusement park. Just the things that don't cost much, because connecting with people is a very natural and authentic thing. And if you can't connect authentically off of a walk in the park, off of grabbing some coffee, what are we going to do sitting down having a 3-hour dinner?
Yeah.
Take pictures of the food?
And
that's
his
definitely
So yeah, so you got anything else you want to add, or what you want to say to that, Coach?
I thought both of the things you guys shared was really golden. It's one of the reasons I enjoy long distance dating. So I always tell people I don't date local. I prefer long distance dating because it forces you to have conversation, schedule time, and so I can be intentionally present, right? And to me, a lot of times when we're when we're with someone locally, especially early on, it's easy for us to go to the movies. It's easy for us to have sex early. It's easy for us to do a lot of things that are distracting, but that doesn't allow me into your heart.
Mm.
But words connect, because then you can see what that person's priorities are, like, what their schedules are they a person of their word, and that tells you a lot about a person, and it gives you time to see if it's worth you investing more of your time.
That's good.
Absolutely. That's amazing. That's amazing. Okay, cool. Let's get into this very last question.
Okay.
Very last question. How does vulnerability play a role in helping couples navigate conflict and show up for each other during difficult moments? So once again, How does vulnerability play a role in helping couples navigate conflict and show up for each other during difficult conversations?
How can a person truly be there for you in the way that they need to be there for you if you are not being honest about who you really are and why you are the way that you are? If you're not being vulnerable, then they're trying to navigate around a suit of armor to find the point that's authentic, to find the point that's the real truth. It's like a minefield, right? I'm trying to navigate this, but every single time I think I kind of got something, boom, it blows up in my face and we're back arguing again, or you're shutting down on me,
Yeah.
right? But when you sit there, and this has happened before where, I would have I have a really big thing about entitlement. And it comes from the fact that in my household, I saw my mom and my dad, right? And I struggle with this with women in my generation because of all these conversations about 50-50 and who's paying for this and that. And it really does trigger me because I saw my dad go from being a breadwinner who took care of everything in the house to losing his job, not because he didn't work hard, not because he wasn't a great worker. He was employee of the month for the whole entire company of 20,000 employees. Like, wasn't because of none of that. It was because some people was greedy. They wanted to merge and move their company across the country. And he wasn't willing to move his family to keep his job. He felt like he could find another job. I saw my dad be out of work for 3 years, not being able to bring in a dime. And my mother as a teacher being the one that's the breadwinner now, taking care of a family of 4. And never once saw her, question my dad's position. Never once was ever in a place where we had to think that mom and dad's relationship was in a level of stress. No. They were locked in. They were team players with each other. And so me and my girlfriend would go back and forth, and she would always wonder why I would get so triggered when she would say certain things, even if she was joking. Oh yeah, a man gotta have that coin, a man gotta this. What you talking about? Stop saying that. Like, don't say that. And it's because to me, it's a trigger. Like, are you the type of person that if I end up in this situation one day, you're gonna be out the door? You gonna question whether I'm the man that you married? Am I good enough? All these different things come up. But when I was vulnerable to her about that, I spent years just saying, stop saying this stuff. Like, I don't rock with this stuff. The day I was vulnerable to her about where that truly came from, about why I feel the way that I feel, she was able to understand not only why it triggered me, but she ended up adopting a new perspective about what love really was. And so it allows her to realize, like, okay, babe, now it comes full circle. Rex know what I'm about to say. This all came full circle probably about 6 months ago. And I've been trying to get my speaking business going. It's a struggle, man, trying to make some money in this. And my girlfriend asked me, she said, Miles, what if we're married and it's still not working yet? It's not bringing in income. What would you do? And we have kids, whatever. And I said, well, it ain't no shame or pride in me. I'll go work at Walmart if I got to provide for my family, right? She responded to me and she said, well, babe, I don't really understand the point in you having to go work somewhere else. If God, is giving you a purpose, if I can make enough income to take care of us, I think that I can still take care of this, and you should keep pursuing your purpose and your dream that God gave you. When she said those words, it's like a weight that I had been carrying on my shoulders for 15 years went away. Went completely away. Because that was the love I had been seeking my entire life. And hearing those words, it was like, wow, I think for the first time, not even the first time, but this is one of the biggest moments where I feel heard and understood and vulnerable. And it just made things, it made me go harder. It made me become closer with God. It made me like, all right, Miles, you gotta lock in, man, because this is what you've been looking for, man. And so if I was never vulnerable, I would have always been chasing it and never known why I couldn't get it.
That's good. That's real good.
So good. That's so good.
But you got to add to that, Coach.
Nothing. I'm here for it. I'm so here for it. I'm so proud. I'm so proud of you. It made me go hard. So no, I love it. I absolutely love it. I dropped a question at the top from a Facebook, and our friend Darrell is here tonight. Hey, Darrell! Shout out to Darrell.
Hello.
Tonight as well. But Courtney had a good question, and I wanted to make sure we held space for it. And she said, is it a bad thing to manipulate one thing about you that you are normally not, i.e., taking a cooking class? Because I don't cook, but have no desire to do so, but willing to learn for him. So
Okay.
I will take the top. That's not manipulation. Like, manipulation is when you are pretending to love cooking and you act like, because you're from South Louisiana, you've been cooking in these pots and burning these pots up and you only been burning water. That is manipulation, sis. That is called compromise. That is called like being open to something different. And in all transparency, I used to tell my mother all the time, I don't need to be in the kitchen learn how to cook because I'm a married man that can. And I did. And I did. But I also divorced. And I did in divorce. I had that in there. But nevertheless,
Did
I
you
will
say after dinner?
Yeah, no, not after dinner. He was
Oh, I
really
was
cool.
about to say.
He can still cook. I still eat some of the food. Okay. Shout out to the amazing cooks, the men that can cook in this world. But I will say that in my now single season, these last like 5-6 years, I have grown to love cooking and I cook all the time and I enjoy it now. And it wasn't a joy then because when I saw my mother doing it, I saw it more of as a chore, an obligation. This feels more like a serving and an ability to like really control like my children's diets and and my friends and like and be able to just serve them and enjoy what that brings. So I absolutely do not believe that is manipulation, darling. That is just called preparation and growth. Go cook for that man.
Absolutely. And only thing I'm going to add to that is, if that's something that you plan to start doing, and if you get that man, please don't stop.
Please don't stop.
Please don't stop it because at the end of the day, the same thing that attracted you to that person, like if somebody says, you know what, bro, I met this young lady. She says she ain't really cooking like that, but she's taking a cooking class because she know I like to eat. That's gonna make a man feel good, especially a man that values acts of service. She taking a cooking class to prepare herself for me. And then y'all finally get into the relationship and you stop cooking, it's gonna break that man heart.
Yeah.
It's gonna break that man heart. So if you're gonna start doing it, you're gonna try to do it, keep that energy up.
Yeah. That's not gonna make that man feel loved if you do that. Like her putting on her makeup, she get all and now she don't do it no more. Dang. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, we going out and I can't remember the last time that you dress yourself up to look nice for me. I say this all the time for women. If your man used to always get his haircuts every 2 weeks, now he want to walk around wolfing for the next 6 months. When the last time I got to see you and be like, man, am I attracted to my man the way he just took care of himself, coming home to me looking all good? Like those things matter, bro. And you have to really be doing it from your heart. But I think you are doing it from your heart because you said, I'm willing to learn for him. That is a sign of somebody who is willing to place himself and I mean this in the best way, in a place of servitude towards their partner. That is what it's about. There are a lot of things that I done had to do in my relationship that I never had to do before. I done learned how to take down some braids. I done learned how to actually give a proper foot massage. I done learned how to help you with the lighting so your makeup look good and read whether your contours. I done learned some things that I did not want to learn, but it helps me be a better partner towards her. And that's what it's about.
We about to clone you, Miles. I'll put you on Rexton, but then we're gonna clone y'all up and dish it out. I'm gonna sell it, make a profit.
That'd be a dangerous duo.
Hey, Carter Crazy is hilarious. He said, had an OG say to him, "You looking for a man of value or a chef, baby girl?"
No, for real. Questions that need answers. But no, so that was really good though. Do we have, before we get out of here, do we have any takeaways? Not any takeaways. What is one thing that y'all want to leave the people with tonight?
Coach, you go first.
So I think biggest thing I would say is to lean into those relationships that are uncomfortable, the ones that make you feel like, oh God, all of me have to show up. Those are going to be some of the best relationships that you ever have. Don't be afraid to love, for you never know the depth in which you will find the best version of you unless you're willing to love. And conflict definitely equals connection. And the better you get at it, the better the connection is. So definitely don't be afraid. Welcome feedback and know that when your partner is still talking to you, they still want you.
That's real.
That's real
That's
good.
real.
What about you, Miles?
I'll say your vulnerability to your partner, especially in conflict, opens the door for your victory. Like you gotta have it. You can't win if you scared to lose. And that's what we're doing when we're not vulnerable. That is what we're doing. We're scared to lose. And I need you to say that to yourself that like I'm tired of losing. I'm tired of playing it scared. I'm tired of being in a relationship where I'm holding back because of my fears of how these situations are going to go. You can't get through it if you can. You got to accept the fact this conflict is going to happen. We're going to argue. We're going to have things that are going to pop up over time. But what I got to do is I got to be open about me and where this stuff really comes from. That's going to allow that person to see you as a human being, and I think we underestimate the power of that. For that person to really see that child in you that saw something that changed them and be able to realize, like, okay, now I understand this woman or this man better, and I don't want to harm that person in this way. Now that I'm aware, so be vulnerable. That's my message. Be vulnerable because it's going to open the door for your victory in the long run.
That's good. That's good. Last thing I'm gonna leave you guys with is in the midst of conflict, in the midst of arguments, in the midst of having any kind of conversation, pay attention to two things. What's the content of what my partner is saying? And what's the feelings connected to what my partner is saying? Right? What's the content? What is she upset about? What is she complaining about? What is she talking about? Understand the content and then also understand the feelings. If you understand the content but understand the feelings, you can say, okay, babe, I understand that you don't like how I don't open your door anytime we get into the car. How does that make you feel? That's you understanding the content and inquiring about the feelings.
Yeah.
Okay, so those are the two things: understand the content and understand the feelings behind it. And if you don't know either one, ask more questions before you respond with what you want to say, before you get to talking about how they did something 2 weeks ago, before you get to trying to defend yourself. Understand the content, understand the feelings, and then respond to that. So that's what I'm gonna leave you guys with.
That's awesome, man. We appreciate you guys so much for another. This is our third show, right? So excited for the lives to come. We're gonna have part two of Fighting Fair next week. Rex, thank you so much for the questions. Coach, we appreciate you so much for the way you have set up these things and kept them flowing. And Coach, let them know about any offerings that we have for them.
Yeah, so listen, tap into us. First of all, make sure you follow us. We love to stay connected. I try to make sure because we're live on Let's Talk Like Men podcast, and I follow people there that are following back and things of that nature. So definitely know my DMs are open. Definitely want to hear you guys' thoughts and feelings. And if you have been finding yourself fighting unfair or just really wanting to take your relationship to the next level, man, listen, tap in with us. You can click the link in my bio. You can book a consultation call with us. We've got some group coaching programs that are launching, and trust me, you do not want to miss being a part of it. That are launching for 2025, and so I'll have my bros with me. I'm so excited about that. And so we definitely want to help you have healthier and happier relationships. So definitely tap in. So I look forward to seeing y'all next week.
Absolutely. All right, y'all. Much love to everyone. We will see y'all next Tuesday. Peace.
Peace. All right, and we are ending.
Look, I gotta have some energy because I know we still